Let me share the letters. Yes, so Lato. Okay, so I got my template. You also have a template, right? You save all the code, you create a template. By the way, one detail of the template or the file is once you have the files. By the way, I don't have any files here. Let me commit all these files. Template. Yes, and sync changes. So you should have a repo that have some files, right? To actually make it a template, you have to set it in settings, right? Mark the template repository. So once you have that, now you can use the template in many other projects, okay? Okay, I have my template. I'm working on my template. And I will create my component. And inside that components folder, I will put the to-do list. And now that I have my components, I can put them in the page, right? So I can come here and say to-do list. Let's see if we have a to-do list. Oh, it needs use state, so I need to make my to-do list a client. Remember that, right? Use client. Oh, shit. Prettier, format and save. Okay. Okay, so with that use client, I'm saying, okay, this is a component that has interaction, of course, it has a state and handlers. So it will only show on the client, right? And we have everything working here. It's not looking the way I like, but let me see if I can. Width, let's make it one. Let's make it 2/12 MX auto. Okay, these are a little better. Okay, cool. So I will delete this so I don't have any task. Yes?
How do we make our app template a template?
Your app template. Oh, you go here and settings and click on template repository. And now you will have this, use this template over here. Got it? Okay, so I have a to-do list. Of course, this to-do list works with memory. That means that every time I refresh the page, right, it will be an empty to-do list. Okay? Now, the way we'll organize our code is we're going to create a folder in our project for the functions that we will create to query the backend. Okay? So right now we need a function to get all the to-dos. Okay? I'm assuming that we already have a list of to-dos, right? I will not create the to-dos or delete the to-dos. I will just assume that my user has a list of to-dos, and I will query for that list of to-dos. Okay? So the way we organize the code is in the source folder, we're going to create another folder called services. This is a very common pattern, right? You have the app folder. Remember, this is the way Next.js organizes the pages in your app. And we will have a services folder. And this is something that we're going to create to put all the functions that connect to the backend, right? So we are going to put that code there so we know where to find it. So the first function that we're going to create is get to-dos, right? Get to-dos. And we're going to create a function get to-dos. Now, get to-dos is an asynchronous function, right? Because it's going to make a query using fetch for the to-dos. Now, what will be the parameter? The user. Let's make it generic enough, right? We can just say, okay, I will not put any user, and I will just make a fetch to that. Oops, not use URL. What is the URL? To this URL. Okay? And notice that in the URL I have to put the user. You see? So playgroundsforgeeks.com to do users user. That user I'm passing as a parameter. That means that this function will work no matter what user I need. It's not hard coded, the user, right? It's a parameter. Remember, this is the URL that we're going to use to query our users. You can see it here. Playgroundsforgeeks.com to do users and then my username. And with that, I get this response. It will have the name of the user, and it will have a list of to-dos in the to-dos property. Now, I made the request. I'm waiting for the request. That means that I will have a response, and I have to check that status. So if the status is 200, what we do, we get the data. And now that we have the data, we can return that data. Now, if the status is not 200, right, we're going to return an empty array. Now, instead of data, we have to do data to-dos. What happened?
I don't have a component.
We don't have a component here.
No, it did, well.
Which one?
Did the get to do's under app, right? I don't have, mine says source/app.
Wait. Oh, source, inside source, right click source, and new folder, services.
Oh,
Enter. And now inside services you can.
Oh, so why did it do?
Because if you have a folder, and that folder has another folder, and it has another folder, it will put all of them together. So
Oh.
it's not,
Okay, cool.
not making a mess with it. Yeah.
¿Dónde sale el estudio?
Porque eso no es el template, estamos usando. Queríamos usar un template de nosotros mismos. Si quieres usar mi template.
Wait.
Usa este mismo template.
Ernesto.
Yeah. Wait, let me share the template.
Okay.
This is a Next.js template. You were here on Friday, right? So
Yeah,
Friday we
Friday.
created a template. Yeah. So my template is this. But you can use it. It's public, right? So I'm sharing that on Slack. Use that one. Use it as a template. So create a repo out of that template. Use this template.
Get to do. .js, right? But I don't have a component. Do I have to create a folder for components?
No, not necessarily. We're just creating. You can create that later. Just focus on the.
Just working on the to-do?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna use this one.
Okay.
But you need the component to. You need
Right,
the
we need the component.
But you have another to-do list somewhere.
Yeah, we have it.
Copy it from the other project and paste it here.
So copy it from there.
Yeah.
Copy.
No, pon esto mismo. Pon el número de minutos. Okay, so this function is an asynchronous function. The name is getToDo's, and I'm passing one parameter of the user, right? So that means that this same function allows me to query for any user. It's not hard coded. That's what I was saying. So this function is doing this. It's doing a fetch. Remember, when you're using fetch and you just pass the URL, that's a GET request. So I'm making a GET request to this URL, and if you check the documentation, it says, okay, this will get all the users to do's. This is the response, because I'm doing a wait, I don't have a promise, I have the actual response. So this will get executed here, and it will stand here until the response comes back. And then it will do this. Now, if the status of the response is 200, that means it's successful, I can await for the JSON, right? So now data is the actual data that we get. It's an object. And from that data, if you check the Postman, you will see that data has name and to-dos, right? So name is the same name of the user, and to-dos is an object, it's a property, sorry, with an array of all the to-dos. So that's what I'm getting. You see, I'm getting data.todos. I don't need the name again. I'm just getting the to-dos. Now, if it's not 200, I'm just returning an empty array. So that means that this function will return an array of the to-dos of that user, or an empty array. So no to-dos. Okay? I don't want to deal today with error codes and error failure. I just want to make it simple. Now, I have my list of to-dos. Now I can come to this component and say, okay, user fed now user fed, there is a problem with user fed. You cannot make a user fed asynchronous, right? That's impossible. So we have to do the trick, the FN trick. And say const data equals await get to do's of who? Myself. Okay, and when you finish this data, I will have an array of to-dos. So what I'm going to do is to set to-dos as data. And now that I have this function, I will just call the function. Right? So what are we doing here? Remember what user fed, what is the purpose of user fed? User fed, every time this second array is changing, now it's just an empty array, executes that function, right? Because it's an empty array that never changed, so this will get executed one time after the application loads. So after the first rendering, and in the first rendering nothing will show up because we have an empty to-do list and an empty task, so nothing will show up there, and then we will load all the to-dos, right? So this is doing this, it's executing this function. I just created this fn function to make it async, so I can use get to-dos, because remember, get to-dos is an asynchronous function, and I want to use await. The only way to use await is if you put it inside an asynchronous function. So that's why I'm creating an asynchronous function, and then I'm calling the asynchronous function, right? That's what we're doing here. So I'm doing get to-dos for that user, and once you get the data, set to-dos of that data. Now, the problem here is that, if you think about it, is that our list of to-dos before was an array of strings, and now we have an array of objects. So we need to change the rendering of our to-dos to make it like this, label and when we are rendering, we need to render the label. So you have something like this. We are loading the data now. You see this came from the API. Yes?
Why do we need to function,
Wait, what do we need to do? To do this one? Oh, why do we need to put it? Just to organize the code. Just to have it organized. There is nothing against you putting that code in the React component, right? That's fine. You can.
My question is, why do we make that function an asynchronous?
It's just to abstract the the functionality. From the point of view of the React component doesn't care where is the data coming from.
Why do we make it an asynchronous function?
You mean this function, get to dos?
Yes.
Because inside has an asynchronous function. Because I'm using fetch, and fetch is an asynchronous function. The problem with asynchronous function is they are like toxic, right? If you get in touch with an asynchronous function, you automatically become an asynchronous function, right? So if you're using fetch, and fetch is an asynchronous function, there is nothing you can do to make this function synchronous. It will be an asynchronous function as well.
Yes.
You think about it, right? You call fetch, and fetch is an asynchronous function. That means that whatever this function is going to return is going to be asynchronous. So this function has to be asynchronous, right? And notice that when I'm using this function, get to dos, here in to do, to be able to use it, I have to put it inside an asynchronous function, right? To be able to use async away. Now you see that I'm already this is my data, right? What do you need? Which one?
The one that puts it in, was it a handle event?
No, it's an effect. Here it is. Oh, what I changed was I changed two things.
Handle enter.
Yeah, I handle enter.
I never had one.
Yeah, what's the issue here? The issue here is that before we had this, walk the dog, buy groceries. Right? What is this? What type of data is this?
The array.
An array of what? No, an array of what type of data?
Strings.
An array of strings. But if you check the API will return something like this. Right? So what type of data is this? An array of objects. Right? So I'm matching that array of objects. I'm now using, so now I change my to-do list to, instead of using an array of strings, every time I add a to-do, I add it as an object. You see? And when I'm rendering, I'm using the label. Right? I'm using now as a label.
Let me see the enter code.
Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense like this. Right? I'm creating the object that has a label and it's done false by default, and I'm putting that in the array. So now instead of having an array of strings, I have an array of objects, and every object has label and it's done. Okay? No? Have it.
I'm still getting a hello NPC concept.
But you have a page, right?
Yeah. Click. Those two that keeps on running.
Wait, why do you have a GS inside? No, that app GS. What is GS?
That's what you told me to do.
Okay, but you don't need home. You choose something to do this. Wait, you copy. Oh, I see what you did. You copy a lot of code. You only need to copy the component, not the home and all the other things. So okay, perfect. Let's fix the no the other one. This is the other one. So here, so that GS.
Right, this is the page. This is a new one.
This is the new one. Right. Okay. Drop that. Okay. Remove the home. You don't need home. That was part of the old. You have to do this. But you see you have GS to do this. Right? So grab component and move it up to source. Source. To app, sorry. Okay. Okay, now you can delete GS. Okay, now you have component. Inside the component you have to do this. Right? And that's fine. Now inside page, that's the you have to use your component there. That's why you say you can load MT627. So right there, remove the load MT627 and put the component there.
Oh, okay. I don't know what.
Yeah. Oh, tú puedes hacer un template y un template. Ahora mismo tú coges eso, le pones todas tus cosas y después lo guardas y dices, esto es un template. ¿Me entiendes?
Yeah.
O sea, un repo igual.
Yeah, a ver si me marco con eso. ¿Qué diferencia que el mío se llama diferente?
No, no importa. Pero, a ver, sube aquí. No, está frente dando, pero no está haciendo nada con esto. Sí. Está, se te olvidó poner set to lose data. Yeah. Another way to do it is to do load data, async, this is also you see? Because we're creating lower data as an async function that is doing this query, getting the all the to-dos and setting the to-dos. And then we call it a fed, we just call the function lower data. Right?
That one's easier.
I think this is the best approach.
But that, the one that you just switched to constant load data was the use effect.
It's the same, you said use a fed. This is going to be executed one time after the application loads, right? It will be executed. And it's doing this, it's loading the data and sending it to the For this to work, you have to have a to-dos. If I change something here, right? If I put 2, that user no longer exists, so probably that user doesn't have a to-do. And then nothing will be rendered. But if I check the network, I will see the 404 error there. You see? 404. That's the API telling me this user doesn't have. But my get to do's, remember this function get to do's. Get to do's is saying, okay, if it's 200, get the data. If it's not, return an array, an empty array. And that's what we see in
How did it know to sync to your to-do list specifically because you put your
yeah, I put my own, yeah,
your path?
yeah.
Down below, you just put to do not label. That's all right, that's all.
Hmm.
404.
Oh, UL is not the.
To do slash to do and API.
Sorry, what?
The URL is to do slash to do or is just slash to do?
Wait, you mean this one over here?
It's just one to do, right? So why am I getting 404?
Let's see that function. You get it a 404?
This one's
So they not do users.
right. This is what's
What user do you
you're
use?
sending it over to, right? This is where inside here, where you know what the column here.
Use to do.
That was one
What is your
tag?
What little symbol?
Because
Can I see the user
computers
page?
don't interpret feelings. They execute commands. Yes.
No, I just wanted to see the user page.
Oh,
That-
user.
That little column could land a hole in the screen.
You mean, wait. Here?
Yes.
Let me close this area. So look, we have the state, right? We know what this is. The state for the to-dos is an empty array initially. The state for the input is an empty string. And then we have this function. This is just a function. Nobody's calling this function, right? It's just a function that is inside my component. Nobody is calling that function yet. And this function is doing this. It's getting all the to-dos for this user, and then it's setting that to-dos, right? The state based on that data. Right? Now, who's calling this function? The fed. And this is going to be executed once after the application loads. Only once because it has this empty array here. That means that only executes once. So loads the data, and now we have our application loaded with the data. If you don't have a user created in the API, then you will not see that, and you will see a 404 error. That's why I said play with the API, create a user, add to-dos, so you will see how that looks like.
How do you open up the settings to use prettier?
Command, comma. And you put format or format here, and you see the first one is default formatter.
Where did you put that user client?
User?
The user client?
Wait. You mean this one?
No, no.
Oh, here in the top.
There, use client.
Yeah. And this is because to-dos have state and has handlers. So it has interactivity. As soon as your component has interactivity, you have to put that use client on the top. If it saves a page or a component, you have to put it.
Prettier.
Got it? All good? So I will do this. I will copy my, just for the sake of the, so you cannot make it work, create a component based on that code that I share. I share my to-do list, right? Of course, you already have the get to-dos, and you can change that username. This is not protected by any user and password. Actually, if let me see how many users we have here. Okay, Jadin C. Let's see how many. Nothing. A couple. Actually, more than 4. JJ's and spaces. Now let's make it. Sorry.
Mine is still showing. Mine is still showing. I guess the code and the.
See it. Where?
I guess because I kind of missed last class. I think you guys deleted something because mine is still showing.
Oh yeah.
This is so fucking cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's fine. You can go to page and delete everything you have there. Page. Yeah, everything that's signed is not the code, just the code inside the component. Yeah, all that. And then put your to-do list there.
I don't understand. You understand.
So I have to have the
Yeah,
two
but
places?
don't move. Go back. Don't leave it like that. Just complete the code, right? So what do you need to put here? The to-do list. No, not that. No, no.
Or my actual to-do list that are here? I have
You need to, yeah, no. You just want to put that to-do list component in the page.
Oh.
So you use it as a tag.
Okay, tagging.
Yeah. You don't need to. Asynchronous because it's returning a promise. Async await, async await is the only thing that async await gives you is the possibility to use await, right? So let me explain. So you can make this. You can make get to dos, and I can say, don't use async, right? In get to dos, I can say, don't use async. But because I'm doing that, then I will have to remove all the awaits. Because you can only use await if you are marking this function as async. Await, yes. You have to explicitly say this is an asynchronous function. Now, I can make this work without async await, basically using promises, right? I have to do it like this, and then now I know that response is a promise. It's not, and that will be a lot of code. I don't want to do that, so just leave it as async await. By the way, if you got the Slack code, that's a to-do list. You need to put it in the page, right? As a component like this.
I did that, but I'm still getting the error.
Sorry, you have an issue still?
Yeah.
Let's see it.
It's saying it's not defined.
You have to import it.
Oh, but it's imported inside of the to-do list as a function.
No, this is your component, right?
Okay, oh, I have a problem.
And no. Go back. Go to your page. And if you're using to-do list here, you have to import it here.
If it's working, are we good?
Now, you remembered last class. Let's make something funny here. You remember last class we say, okay, you can create a segment that is dynamic, and then you can get the segment from the URL. What if we make here a folder called user? And then we move this page here. And we can say here params, and we can pass a property here params.user. So now my to-do list will get a user param, right? And this is the user I'm going to use here. That means that now I can do /Ernesto Freire and those are my to-dos. If I open, what is your, let me see which one is the, who's Cesar? Who's Cesar? No, it's not here.
Say me,
Cesar is yours? This is yours?
Kevin Rosario.
Which one?
Kevin Rosario, under yours.
Oh, Kevin. So if I do Kevin in the URL, I will see Kevin's to-dos. Why? Because I have a dynamic page, right? I have a dynamic page using user, and then inside the dynamic page I have a page that's taking that user and passing as a parameter. So when I make this query, I'm making a query based on that user, right? So now I can access pretty much any users to do, just changing the URL. Right? Makes sense? Kind of neat, right?
What was it that you changed the to-do?
I put it in a page, in a segment, dynamic segment.
This code you didn't change?
Well, I changed the user here.
Or they have the main function?
Okay, let me change this. Got it. Got it? Yeah, so I'm putting this page in a segment. It's that dynamic segment. So that means that I can put slash anything. Notice the segment is inside app, so that means that slash anything. So slash anything, and I will open this page. And this page is taking the user from the segment and passing it down to the to-do list. So this to-do list will be the to-do list for this user that is in this page. So whatever I have in the URL, that's the user that's going to be passed down to the component. If I open the network, the developer tool here, I should see a to-do list somewhere here, and you see the user is Ernesto Freire because that's the parameter that I'm passing, right? So everything in that component will be depending on that user. You know what? Let's make it. No, actually, that makes sense. Yeah, let's do it there. Of course, I don't have a root folder now, right? This should be a 404. Yeah, because I don't have a root page now. Because I move it, right? I have a layout, but I don't have a root page. Okay, I will leave it there. We can follow up on this on Wednesday.
Wasn't the app symbol supposed to take care of the path?
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, it's not.
Wasn't it supposed to automatically do it? No?
Yeah, you can do add. No, not necessary. Add components to-do list. That also works.
That was my issue when I moved it. It wasn't working good with that. So I thought it was supposed to do it automatically.
Okay, so I just want to put another example. That's why I want to stop in get. We will not do any posts. We have get to-dos, right? This is get me all the to-dos. Actually, let's rename it. Well, actually, no. Let's create another one for get users, right? Remember that we have a get request for this URL, and it will give me all the users. Correct? I will make a function for this. So that will be sport async function get users. Okay? Now response await fetch. What's the URL that we are awaiting? This one. Okay, so if the status 200, then we can get the data. And we can return data.users. If not, we can return an empty array. Now, this function queries this URL, the one that has all the users. And it will get me from the users property that array of all the users. You see that for every user, I have the name, right? So what if we use this in a page right here in the main folder? And we do users. Oh, we have to use a users set users. Okay. We're going to create a function load users. That will be asynchronous. And it will do this. It will do await get users. And it will say set users data. Use a fed. Load users. So we're going to call this function one time, and now we can return a rendering of all the users. So we do this li user.name. Oh, client components, of course. We need to make this page client. Oh, false. Something is wrong. Where's the network? Users. Users, and every user has okay, wait. Home state name, this is Jerry. Okay. Wait, why it's not showing anything? await get users, set users. Huh. It's not rendering anything. That's weird. Let's put a key just in case. So the key will be user.id. I don't know what's going on here. That's weird. Shit. Users. Right? Where's the background coming from? Oh, maybe this. Load users. Async. Await get users. Set users. Let's see we show the data on the console. Yeah, there's the data. Name ID. Come on. Everything was looking good except that it's not doing anything here. Users. Well, not doing what I want to do, but yeah, 35. Come on, what happened? I have 35 users. So users.map user key shit. Motherfucker, I know it. Okay, check this out. I made a terrible mistake, but you get the idea. All the users are here, right? And but this is a page that just lists all the users, right?
It was just down there.
Right? It's just listing all the users. Nothing else. I use the get users endpoint to list all the users, and I just render them in a list, right? But what if instead of making a list, I make it a link to user.name? Well, it should be slash user.name, right? Check this out. Check this out. So now I have a link. I have a link to slash that username, but we already know. Oh, we need to import a link. We already know that we have. Shit. That if we click on one of them, we go to the list of that person.
So mine won't say.
What is mine here?
Do it. That's mine won't say. I have stuff on there.
Which one is yours, Caesar?
Alex. Right under it.
One item.
Wow. It says, mine's the top of the
Peinar
document.
gato. Who said peinar gato? That's a good one.
You see the code?
Cool. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I don't know how I didn't save it.
So you see how we are now merging, making queries, getting data, rendering data, and linking to some other data that's also making queries and linking. Okay? So we have to leave it there for tonight. But next class, we're going to continue on this subject, and we will add the post, so we can send data to the backend, of course, and of course the another library that we're going to use called React Query. This one. You notice we're using the latest version, not this, but you get the point. So if you notice, we don't know what's happening with when we are loading. We cannot retry. When we had an error, we don't treat that error. So all these states we need to treat, right? And for that, we're going to use this library. So let's see it on Wednesday. See you on Wednesday. Cool. Bye.